Hey guys, welcome to Sip and Murder, where I talk everything crime, books and movies. Today's episode is all about the drama series Code of a Killer, based on the true story about the first use of DNA fingerprinting to solve a murder in the 80s in England. So grab your drink and let's go. A dark rural lane sat quiet that evening. Two teenage girls, Linda Mann and Dawn Ashworth, walked home like they had many times before. Their murders haunted the town and confused investigators for years. Every lead faded, every answer slipped away. Then one scientist stepped forward with an idea no one had seen before. What happened next changed investigations forever and proved that science could speak when no witness could anymore. Code of a Killer was a British true crime drama that told the story of a moment when everything in criminal investigation began to change. It followed the first time DNA fingerprinting was used to help solve a real criminal case in England. At that time, this technology was new, uncertain, and not fully trusted. No one knew if it would work. The drama showed two worlds moving at the same time. On one side, the police were searching for answers. They followed leads, asked questions, and tried to make sense of a crime that refused to explain itself. On the other side, a scientist worked quietly in his lab. He studied patterns, ran tests, and hoped his discovery could help find the truth. It was not a typical police story. It focused on waiting, doubting and hoping, and it showed how science slowly became a voice in the investigation. Every small step felt important and every result carried weight. It felt real because it was real. The people were not fictional heroes, they were ordinary people facing something new and frightening. It felt like watching the birth of modern forensics. It had the spirit of CSI, crime scene investigation, one of my favourites, but this story happened long before such shows existed. This was where it all truly began. Before this case, DNA had never helped clear an innocent person and reveal the real killer in the same investigation in England. But remember, I've previously covered the Francisca Rojas case, where Argentina became the first country in the world to use DNA fingerprinting to solve a murder in 1892. Before the discovery of DNA, police did not have much power in solving cases efficiently and accurately. They relied on confessions, witnesses and instinct, but sometimes that just wasn't enough. In the early 1980s, two teenage girls were murdered in Leicestershire in England. The crime shocked everyone and they felt connected, but the police could not prove who did it. Fear stayed in the community and people waited for answers that just never came. Eventually, the investigation led to a suspect. He was questioned and even confessed, and it seemed like the case was finally over, but there were still doubts. That was when a scientist named Alec Jeffreys became involved. He had been working on a new method called DNA fingerprinting, and it was new and untested in criminal cases. Many people were unsure if he could really identify someone. When the test results came back, something unexpected happened. The DNA did not match the suspect. For the first time in history, science proved a confession was wrong and an innocent person was cleared. But that was only the beginning. Police realised the real killer was still out there, and this led to a massive search using DNA. This moment became the heart of Code of a Killer, and it showed how science changed justice forever. What made Code of a Killer different was that the suspense did not come from chasing someone in the dark, it came from inside a quiet laboratory. Science itself felt like a living character. Every test result mattered, every small discovery felt like time was running out. People waited, hoping the science would finally speak. No one knew if it would work. That was what made it so tense. Today, DNA feels normal. Back then, it felt like a risk, and the police were not sure. The scientist was not sure. Even the future of the case was not certain. Every moment carried doubt. Human pain was always present. Behind every sample was a real person who had lost their life. Behind every delay was a family still waiting for answers. You could feel their silence, you could feel their hopes slowly fading and returning again. The courtroom moments were filled with quiet fear. This kind of evidence had never been used before, and people questioned it, they challenged it. Everything depended on whether others would believe in something they couldn't see. This combination made every scene feel real and heavy, and it was not fast action, it was slow, careful and uncertain. That was what made it unforgettable. Before DNA became the norm, if there were no clear prints or reliable witnesses, cases often stalled. DNA testing existed, but it stayed inside research labs. It had never stepped into a murder trial before. Then this case changed everything. For the first time, DNA linked biological evidence directly to one specific person with a level of certainty that no other method could offer. It was not guesswork, it was not an opinion, it was science speaking clearly. Even more shocking at the time, DNA proved that a suspect was innocent. That idea felt almost unbelievable back then. A confession had already been made, yet science showed it was false. That moment forced investigators to rethink how truth was determined in cases. The case also led to something no one had attempted before. Police began systematically screening thousands of local men, comparing their DNA to the evidence. It was organised, careful, and based entirely on biology. What happened next built the foundation for modern forensic databases used around the world today. From that point on, DNA became one of the strongest tools in criminal justice. The story was driven by real people whose choices changed history. At the centre was Alec Jeffries, who's played by John Sim. He was not a detective, he was a quiet scientist working in a lab. He had discovered DNA fingerprinting almost by accident while studying genetics. At first, his work was meant for research, not for criminal cases. But when police approached him, he realised his discovery could help solve something much bigger. His method did more than help catch a criminal, it slowly reshaped the way justice worked. Then there was David Baker, played by David Trelfall, the detective leading the investigation. He faced pressure, fear in the community, and very few solid answers. Many officers still trusted traditional instincts and routine police work. But he saw something different in this new science, and he believed it was worth the risk. His decision to trust DNA testing led to the first large-scale DNA screening in history, and that choice changed the direction of the case. And then there were the families of the victims. Their presence was felt in every moment, and their grief was quiet but powerful. They were not background figures, they were the reason the search continued, and their loss gave the story weight and truth. Together, these real people made the drama feel human and unforgettable. What happened in this case did not stay in one town. Its impact spread across the world, and after this, DNA evidence became a normal part of criminal investigations. Police no longer depended only on what people saw or said. Science became a silent witness that couldn't lie. Cases that had been forgotten for years slowly came back to life, and evidence that once meant nothing was tested again. Some of those cases finally found answers, and families who had waited for decades finally learned the truth. It also helped people who had been wrongly convicted. Some had spent years in prison for crimes they did not commit, and when their DNA was tested, the truth came out. Science gave them their freedom back, and it corrected mistakes that once felt permanent. This one investigation changed the future. It did not just solve a crime, it began a new era of justice. And that was why Code of a Killer felt so powerful to watch. It was not just a story. It showed the moment when everything began to change, and it showed how patience and belief in something new slowly brought answers. The tension felt real because the outcome was never certain and every step felt important. By the end, it was clear that justice had entered a new age. Some stories entertained you, and this one stayed with you. It showed the moment when science stepped out of the shadows and faced evil. And Code of a Killer was not just television, it was viewers witnessing history occurring and the birth of scientific criminal investigation. Thanks guys for joining me again. Remember, like, follow and subscribe my channel if you like everything crime, books and movies, and join me next time for another review on a top crime show. See ya.